everybody, this is Skeet.
I'm Moshin Mikey.
Rock and Roll Roundtable.
Yes, our good friends at Moshman Media with another presentation for you today.
This week, best debut albums.
Debut albums. They're either a big starting point for a band, or they're like a miss, and then they come out with like a second album or stuff. But as far as the best debuts, most of the ones that hit on the first album have a decent career regardless.
Yeah.
They might not be mega stars. They might have a sophomore slump and this and that. But debut albums still remain pretty important. I mean, for a band to launch off of it, not as much now, I would say, because everybody does singles, they do EPs, they do a lot of touring, they do a lot of these short clips on social media. But from the 60s, 70s, 80s, all the way through even, I believe, the 2000s, debut albums were pretty important, and there's a lot of great albums. Some that were the best that band ever did, and some that just gave you an inkling of what they were going to do.
Yeah.
So, I kind of go chronologically with this because I'm trying to think back to influential debuts that were the launching pads for these mega bands. And I just like to think of ones that I really was influenced by that may not be like a juggernaut, but to me, they were. They were like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is something new and exciting. And so, I mean, to go back in the time machine of the late 60s, I mean, you got to start Led Zeppelin 1, really.
Okay.
Because here's a different sounding band. They were a blues influenced, but hard rock, never metal. I've never called them a metal band. But the guitar work was like insane. The singer was very unique. So here's a new breed of music. Blues, but more rock than blues. So, okay, hadn't been really done at that point because you're coming out of psychedelic and you're going into this. But then I think the granddaddy of them all for people like us, the metalheads, came with Black Sabbath. Because here is absolutely something that we had definitely never heard. The tuning was weird. It was slow. It was methodically doomy. And then you had this screeching kind of weird voice, absolutely one of a kind voice coming out. And that first album was like not one that I had ever really listened to from Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
But you hear everybody talk about it all the time. They talk about the first Black Sabbath album. I didn't listen to Black Sabbath, 100% honesty, till I think Volume 4, when that album came out. So it was like, yeah, but they were a little early for Gen X, for us. We're like the mid Gen X people, or we're like what, the beginning of Gen X. So the boomers absolutely love Black Sabbath. Me, it took me a while, and then I really enjoyed it after that. I mean, the 70s chock full of big ones, but for me, it wasn't even the Kiss album. The first Kiss album was like, okay, I didn't get hooked on Kiss till two albums. I mean, the Alive album was really what hicked me in with Kiss. But some of these bands in the 70s, man, the Boston album, that's one of the, that's probably my best favorite, greatest debut album of the 70s by a mile. Yeah. Even though there was a ton of other bands that were in that. I think Jimi Hendrix maybe he was 60s. I think he might have been
That's
late
great news.
60s. But that was, again, RU experience was, oh my God, what's this dude doing? And then you find out, I wasn't aware of him until, Christ, I was 12, 13.
Yeah,
But then hearing all the stuff about him and that album, here's a guy that was playing this crazy, somewhat sloppy, I believe, guitar, but it's just emotional. And it was finding out that he's playing upside down and backwards,
yeah,
and the whole Woodstock, the whole show he did at Woodstock, setting the guitar on fire. So it all matched in together. But that was a great debut album. I mean, Motorhead, 1975, right in the middle of the pack. That's another distinguished band. That voice, it's always the voice for me,
yeah,
a lot of the time. I mean, because you can hear a million guys sing the same way. But when you have guys like Robert Plant and Ozzy and Jimi Hendrix and then Lemmy, well, that is just not normal singing voices.
yeah.
But Motorhead, what I remember about them, even when it came out, I remember hearing people at school talking about this band. And I was like second, third grade, whatever. And, you hear, I was a Kiss guy, I didn't care. They said, these guys are so fast. They're so fast and loud. And I'm like, what do you mean loud? They said, everything seems loud. It's not so, even when you got it on one, it's like louder than anything. So, and then, Motorhead probably doesn't get enough credit for what they did with thrash,
Okay,
but I don't think they were ever thrash metal. To tell you the truth, I always called them speed metal
okay,
because thrash has a certain element to it. I think these guys were the originators of speed metal. But then again, there you go. You go from the doomiest shit you can get with Black Sabbath, slow, methodical, to this million mile an hour in a span of 5 years. That's how
yeah.
much music was evolving back then. I mean, do you recall anything in the 70s that you were like, remember as a kid that was this mind blowing when you heard it the first time?
I, Mike, there
I mean,
was
it's
so much. Uh, I mean, as far as anything that I heard in the 70s, it was all radio based.
right.
So
Yeah, a
any
lot of
kind of music that I heard, it was riding with the family in a car, going to visit a relative, and you heard
it.
whatever radio station dad had on when he's driving everybody there. So
Yeah,
that was what we listened to in the car. That was the current music at the time for the 70s.
70s. Yeah.
So and I've told this story before. My parents used to put on records, and they would put on the shit. They would put on Beatles and stuff that they listened to when they were younger on their albums. So on Friday nights or Saturday nights, when they decided it was going to be music night, and they had the big long stereo with the fucking record player inside and shit,
Yeah.
and they'd put the records on. That's what they were playing. They were playing albums. I mean, you know, the Sonny and Cher and the Elvis live albums and the type of
Mhm.
shit that they listened to mainly. So that was not. It was popular, but it wasn't. You know what I'm saying? They had their set taste of music, and that's what I got to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. See, fortunately, for me, my neighborhood, I grew up with a bunch of guys that were older than me. So I had friends that are, 5, 6 years older than me. So when I was 7, 6, 7 years old, I'm getting the teenager stuff.
Yeah,
Well, I was luckily to be introduced to bands, early on. All the '70s great bands, the Queen and Kiss and Queen and Cheap Trick and Ted Nugent and all these guys. So I heard a bunch of stuff. I didn't really know if it was at that point if it was a debut album or not.
Yeah.
But when I went down and looked at a list, it's like how many did I really catch on right away? It's pretty much a lot of.
Okay.
I mean, the Led Zeppelin I heard right away. Van Halen one, for
Yeah.
God's sakes. Van Halen was, I was 9 or 10 years old, and I'm like, what in God's name is that? And they're like, what's that guy doing? He's playing this weird sounding, this reverbish or echoish sounding guitar, but it was like incredibly all over the place. And I really wasn't a guitar person, but I was like, that is pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
And they had the charismatic singer and the just punch in the nuts kind of music. I was like, this is all right. And I had a lot of different genres in the 70s for me. It's like you go from the speed of Motorhead. Then I was in the Kiss Army, of course. Then you got the progressive, what I call more progressive stuff with Styx and Boston, of course. And then I get this Van Halen, which is just Sunset Strip rock and roll. So it's like, okay. So, but the best debut of the 70s is still Boston for me, but Van Halen's got to be right there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just influential wise, just pure quality. I have a different listening taste than some people, so Boston would kind of win that for me. But you're a Van Halen guy. If it came down to it, you're probably going to be a Van Halen boat.
Yeah.
That's fine too. But of all the debuts that came out, it's hard to even fathom and manage them. Like Iron Maiden came out, right? In like the end of the 70s, 1980, 81, somewhere around.
Yeah.
And I didn't even care about it. I was like, hey, my buddies were listening, my older buddies were listening to it. They're like, oh, this is great, blah, blah, blah. I said, I don't get that shit. I just wasn't
Yeah.
into it that much. Then Killers came out, and I was like, okay. So for me, it was the debut was okay for Iron Maiden. It's popular. It's very well known. It's all this. But did it blow me away like Killers did? No. And then Number of the Beast like took it to a completely different level. So was Iron Maiden's one of the best? I didn't think so.
Yeah.
But now looking back, man, how much influence did it have? A ton. Had a shit ton.
Well, and then
Uh
you had the big turn though. So I mean, you mentioned Van Halen's debut album. What was going on behind, in the era of 76, 77, 78? What was going on in rock during
yeah,
that time period?
you
You
were
had
hitting a lot of
disco.
different disco,
You
yeah.
had disco was huge. So it was kind of like uh Detroit Rock City movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where the Kiss kids run into the disco kids, and there's that, because that's kind of what was happening at the time. You know what I'm saying? I mean, even Kiss
Yeah.
did a disco single.
The
So there
biggest
was,
the biggest single of their career.
yes,
That's what blows your mind. It's the
yeah,
biggest single of their career.
yeah. But so rock was kind of like, people are like, oh, rock is dead, rock is dead. Okay. Van Halen comes along and kind of changes the fucking game and rejuvenates the fucking rock stuff into the 80s. Now,
Yeah.
you get with your Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and some of those bands from England with the, you know, new wave of British heavy metal that came into
Yeah.
America. That was a movement in its own. I mean, that wasn't influenced by Van Halen. They were already doing that shit
Yeah.
in the late 70s into the fucking 80s, and that's when they, made the biggest impact.
Right. Yeah. Def Leppard, the first,
Yeah,
but the debut album for Def Leppard really kind of, it didn't make waves, but it did. Had like a song or two. But man, it was a segue for they're here, they're showing themselves, and then they smack you in the face with High and Dry, and then they go on to a pretty damn good career, you
yeah,
know. So, but as far as debuts go in the '80s, man, it's like you can just throw a dart. I mean, look what the Cat Drag did
yeah.
for
That was
Boysen.
huge. I love that one. Yes.
Not just the look, but the songs were really good. Still my favorite. Still my favorite Poison album. Out of the Cellar. I mean, you hear here again another California band with very distinct vocals, sleazy, nasty, pussy chasing guys. It's
Yeah,
just like that became the start to me of the hair metal revolution. So, and you can throw a dart at any hair metal band and check their debut.
yeah.
Winger, man, you don't get much better of a debut than Winger. Bon Jovi's Fahrenheit album. I mean, it
Well,
wasn't the classic, but man,
well, yeah,
Runaway,
but
come on.
Fahrenheit wasn't their debut album.
I thought it was. See, that's as
No,
far as I knew. I
no,
didn't even know that.
no,
So I thought it was their first album. So
no, no.
even then, it's like, okay. Uh, but along with all the hair metal, you also have this new wave of West Coast music coming by a tiny little band. I don't think their career really mattered after their debut, but a small band by the name of Metallica came out.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, with Kill 'Em All. And then you had Slayer come out with Show No Mercy, which was scary to people
yeah,
because here you got this satanic goat on the cover of an album. The Pentagrams, the dark, badly fucking produced album. But it had Black Magic Nights. It had Die by the Sword. It's just incredibly. And there was the introduction to purebred thrash. So not only do you get Iron Maiden and the rest of England coming, then you get the hair bands starting to trickle, but then you get these faster than fast, and then some with spooky undertones too, like Slayer. It's like, man, there was a lot happening in the 80s. And it's all these debuts. Now, is any of those debuts the biggest album those bands ever had? Not by a long shot. But boy, it introduced them in a major way.
yeah,
And they never had a bad showing after that. They never had the sophomore slump. They didn't have this. And how many people still regard Kill 'Em All as like, oh my God, that changed my life
yeah,
because of the speed, because of the angst in it, and just the actual different style that you could do that. You're allowed.
yeah,
You didn't have to play bass line music. You didn't have to dress up in makeup and play like I Want You Baby kind of songs. You can sing more shit like,
yeah,
straight up metal up your ass kind of their moniker at that point or whatever. So, yeah, it was interesting to me when that stuff came out, but I never personally listened to it until a couple years later. So I missed a boat on a lot of these debuts. Poison I didn't. Poison I hit, but that
yeah.
was later.
Well,
That was a little later.
look at that was what 86.
86, yeah. I think
You
Winger
know,
came out in 87 or 88. They were 86. So Metallica and Slayer were 83. So they were still with the English bands. And then you had a couple hair bands. Like Rat, I think, was 82 or 83. So Rat was one of the first ones I'd heard that was considered hair metal
well,
back in
Motley,
the day.
of course, Motley. Too Fast for
Yeah.
Love was 81, and
Yeah, and
I didn't get into it until 83.
I
That's
got Shout
because
the Devil.
yeah,
Shout the
Shout the
Devil was
Devil
one of
was huge for me as a Motley fan, but I missed to I had to go back. And that was a lot of the 80s for me was okay, you know, uh Van Halen released 1984 and Def Leppard released Pyromania in 83. So you had these huge albums, but they weren't the debut albums. And then I had to go back to
Yeah.
check
No.
out. And that's when you started backtracking into, okay, well, what else is out there? Oh, well, Motley Crue had this album before Shout at the Devil, their first album. And in some ways it was better, in some ways it wasn't. When you
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
compare the first and second album, I mean, you know, Shout the Devil was huge, but it had a different tone and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was more. I'd never even knew they had a first album. When I heard Motley Crue the first time, I'm like,
Yeah,
okay. And then I went and seen them, and they played some of the first album on that tour,
yeah,
and I'm like, what songs are these? I'm not getting it. So I had to go back and say, oh, they had another album. But now I consider it, yeah, a highly regarded album for me. But at the time, no, I missed the boat. And a lot of people will ask, how do you miss that? Well, we live in Podunk, Ohio.
yeah,
So it's like we're not on the cutting edge of California or New York here.
yeah,
So it trickles down to us at a little bit later time. And it's always an ADHD thing for me because there's so much music I like. I hear a couple songs, I like them, and I'll follow them for a while, and I'm oblivious to a lot of other stuff. And then I might hear a great album. I'm like, whoa, whoa, what's this? And then I'm on them for a few minutes. So even Nirvana was that way.
yeah,
Really think about it. I love Bleach. I think Bleach is a fucking excellent debut album. But I had no idea it existed at all until after Nevermind was out and
yeah,
popular. And I thought I kind of liked their swagger. I like these guys. And I think it was our buddy Rod that gave me the Bleach out. He said, "Here's their first one. It's better." Like bullshit. You're not gonna get better than Nevermind. And I listened to it. I was like, boy, that's some raw, not going for hits. It's just, man, it distortion everywhere, feedback, just darker lyrics than you would have imagined. It's like, okay, yeah, that is pretty damn cool. And it
yeah,
rivals Nevermind for me. But
yeah,
a lot of people don't even know Nirvana has a Bleach out.
yeah,
That's still to this day. They know Smells Like Teen Spirit and on. They
yeah,
didn't even go back and look at the Bleach album, which is a shame because the Bleach album is very good. But I tell you, like I said, there's so many hair metal bands that their debuts were just off the charts good. Some of them had a great lengthy time period where they were relevant. Other ones, they had a shitty second album and they never
yeah. Well,
materialized.
that's where that sophomore fucking curse comes in. I think
Yeah,
that's when they
yeah.
started talking about that stuff, is during that era. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, oh, they had such a great first album, and then I mean, I contribute that a lot to that everybody works so hard for that first album. They've got all these songs ready, and they just shoot their wad on the first one. And if they
Yeah.
don't have a stockpile of songs, then they were having to write and maybe still use a few old songs for that second album, and they take that
Yeah.
strength from the first into the second.
Yeah, yeah, and I think too that maybe some of these guys, they have 20 songs ready to go, and they throw their best 10 out there, and
Yes.
they go on these massive tours, which is how you get your name out there.
Yeah.
And the record company wants to make their money, so they're sending them out there. And then some people can ride on the road, some people probably can't. But they back then they always tried to have like an album every year. like every 9 months to a year, you're getting a new album. So if you had 10 mediocre songs for your second album and you don't have time to write them, that's what you put out there. It's like, well, thank God you chose the first 10
Yeah.
or you wouldn't be where you're at. And there's some bands that we've talked about that absolutely slipped past us all, like Junkyard, bands that
Yeah.
were better than they were given credit for. Trickster's first album. I still love Trickster's first album. But, it just didn't materialize after that, and that's fine. But bands like Pearl Jam, come out 10, man, that's 10 songs on that first album. And I don't know of a bad one, not even a slightly bad song on that album. It's probably one of, in my own brain even, and my fault, I underrate it. I really do. Because
Yeah.
it's like a couple of songs got played way too much.
Yeah.
The Even Flows and Jeremy's and Even Black got
Yeah.
played a ton. But there's not a bad song on it. I mean, it's like every song's killer. And I think it's highly regarded by people, but it's like not enough, probably. I mean, it's
Yeah.
that good if you really sit and listen to it. And there's some debuts that I could care less about that people rave about,
Yeah.
like Rage Against the Machine. I had no interest in that first album, none.
Yeah.
I just didn't care for it. I didn't like that rapping vocals kind of thing. But I liked Evil Empire later on,
Yeah.
and I was somewhat of a Rage fan, certain songs here and there. But a lot of people say, "Oh, that first album was classic," and this. I didn't think it was that good. So
Yeah.
it's like The Doors is the same way. People talk about the Doors debut album. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I really don't. I don't think I've ever. I don't even know which album is the Doors. Is it just self-titled? I don't even.
Yeah. I think it was the Doors. Yeah.
And I just never. I never paid attention enough to the Doors, other than songs. I'd pick songs out. I never bought full albums and sitting there and listen to them.
Well, okay, and that's because of it's the same way with Hendrix. You
Yeah,
know, they
a
had
lot.
the
Yeah.
35 curse.
The what?
Or
Oh, 27.
the 30
Tw-
the
tw-
30 curse.
27 club. They're in the
Yeah,
27 club.
27.
But yeah, both of them died.
So they've really had short careers. So
Yeah.
they only had a limited amount of releases, and then it's kind of like they become legend because there's all that speculation. Well, what would have happened if what.
Yeah.
So
And,
the 27 club. I can't believe I forgot that. I'm getting old.
yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah. Well,
but you know what I'm talking about.
yeah, and Cobain fits in that too. It's like I don't know if I think he was 27, but he, they always say, "What if? What would have happened?" I tell you what would have happened was like Nirvana. They would have broke up. It would have been Kurt doing his own thing, Dave doing his own thing. It would have been the same. I don't think Nirvana was headed for a 30-year career. I just don't.
Yeah,
Too much turmoil. And there's some things like that you'll never know.
yeah.
The Doors, they talk about turmoil in the band too. You don't know what would happen. So it's sad. Um, I'll go ahead and go to some of the ones I know in the 90s. When the end of the 80s and into the 90s with Pearl Jam coming out and Nirvana, then you had to have the alternative to that was bands like Korn. Here's a unique band. That first album's my favorite. And it's like that is a phenomenal debut album. And it was just so unique. I mean, they just played this funky 7-string. That's the first time I'd heard a 7-string guitar was on that. And Jonathan was such a strange singing. He always fried his vocals out. But it was kind of what people called rap rock, which I don't agree with. I think he still sang enough, but that debut was like the catalyst for new metal.
Yes.
It really was. I mean, you think about how important that is to everybody after them, the Papa Roaches of the world and all those guys. And for me, 94 was the Korn year. A very, very important album came out in 1994 was Weezer's Blue Album,
Yeah.
which I will still say to my dying day is my best favorite debut album of all time. It just is because it changed my perspective on music itself. If something hits you that hard, you have to acknowledge that it changed your life music wise. And two bands, Weezer, that album did it, and Ginger did it later.
Okay.
And those were the two defining moments in my life as far as I was ready to give up on music at some point and say, I'm tired of this same old cookie cutter shit. Weezer comes out. Oh my God, listen to that crunch, but they're happy. It was like the crunch, but happy. And I think those 2 years, even 94, 95, because 95 came out with Down. All right. And Down's NOLA album is still, it's not probably number two on my
Okay.
debuts as far, but it was like, okay, here's this very heavy riffology kind of dark, deep, and you could smell the South in it. I don't know. It's weird how
Yeah.
you just knew listening to that it was from the South somewhere. It was nasty. And you listen to that album and it's like those two albums are complete polar opposites. And I thought, thank God, because I can still pick and choose, man.
Yeah.
I'm not cookie cutter in here. These two are polar opposite band, and they both did great albums. Of course, that led me back 2 years prior for the first Crowbar album. Then I heard what my brain was in love with the riffs. Fuck the solos, fuck all that shit. Because Kirk don't play solos, man. He
Yeah.
just plays riffs, and they make you want to punch the fucking sky. It's just angry but happy angry. That's where I learned. That's where I learned that in my 20s or 30s, whatever it was, that the heavier music makes me happier.
Yeah.
And it's like that was a key for me. Okay, it's like I'm trying to listen to Doris Day to improve my mood, and I was ready to kill a motherfucker. But you pop Weezer in with that crunch, or Crowbar, or Down, I'm a
Yeah.
happy son of a bitch. I'm a happy motherfucker. I can just walk around swinging at nothing, but not in a mean way. I'm like, oh, yes, this is a release.
Yeah.
And that was just me, my personal story. And there was some classic albums that came out later, like Slipknot came out in 99. I think that changed for a lot of people, not just because of the theatrical, but here's the first really growling, yelling, screaming guy
Yeah.
that people accepted as okay because it had been done for 20 years before him.
Yeah.
But he did enough. He was the first guy I noticed to go back and forth.
Yeah.
He could scream and growl and sing normal. So it's like that was it's very important to me later in life too, because I love that style now more than anything.
Yeah.
But with that, the same year, again, the polar opposites show up. You have Slipknot, and then you get Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory come out. Here's a pure singer. They do switch back and forth, but it's like a rapper and the pure singer. Not
Yeah.
a growler in the singer. It's a pure singer and a rapper. Mixed in with the scratch sounds, the scratchies. And so Limp Bizkit was going to be in that mix. And Incubus came out of that. And so it was like, it was a popular thing in the late 90s to do. But man, you get a guy like Chester, that album was no skips, man. That was a great debut album. And, you know, to me, it's my personal new metal favorite,
Okay.
like for debuts. I love Slipknot, I love Korn, I love all that. But man, and it was lighter than I listen to normally, but it's so fucking good. It's like you just can't deny how good that album was. And I was I wasn't even a fan at first. I mean, I didn't even buy it. My kids wanted it.
Yeah.
I bought it for them, and they were 5 years old, 6 years old. They'd heard a song on the radio or something. Daddy, buy us this. All right. Like I bought Pink for the girl and Lincoln Park for the boy, and it's like, well, I'm not gonna bash on Pink because I kind of guilty pleasure. I liked some of the first Pink album too,
Yeah.
but man, that Lincoln Park album just off the chain, you know. And I
Well,
think to and for me after 2000, I can't really name a memorable debut off the top of my head that changed my changed my thinking about music at all. But
yeah.
maybe you have some. I don't. I don't really
Dude, I'm
know.
after the 80s and the 90s. I mean, we were doing our own thing, so it was kind of like I shut myself off from a lot of the music at the time. If you hear it on the radio, cool, but it was very purposefully done to not listen to be inspired or feel like you're stealing something you hear from a band when we were trying to do our own stuff. So for me,
Yeah.
I felt like a shut in until, a few years ago when it's like, okay, well, I can catch up on all this stuff because, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We,
I think
you know what I mean?
uh,
We pretty much set how we're going to sound. I've got my own sound, I've got my own style, and now I can actually kind of enjoy stuff again. So it's been an awakening in the past 5 years to actually get to hear some stuff and go, oh, that's cool or that's cool. And a lot of the harder music you've introduced me to, I've had some good experiences, but I couldn't tell you if their debut album was great or not, and that's
right,
my
right.
own fault. I feel like I
And,
missed out.
and it's not all your fault. I think a lot of it has to do, honestly, with the streaming services because people don't make as big a deal about a debut album anymore because they'll leak or not really leak, but they'll put 5 singles out before the album. It's kind of like one band I've really been into that we've talked about on the show. My Girls in Not Enough Space.
Yeah,
And they're a metalcore band that I really enjoy. But they just released their first album, their first full length album, like 2 weeks ago or whatever it is. And I've heard like 12 songs of theirs. So it's like they've had either EPs or just singles, and it's like it's just not as big a deal to have this grandiose debut album anymore. They just it almost feels like if you're doing DIY, you just want to get it on the internet. And if you're under contract with a record company, they want to get you out there and see if you're going to make it or not. They don't want to wait and build up this debut album. Like one of the ones I missed from the 80s that's like a grandioso for me, Appetite for Destruction. I mean, I didn't hear anything about Guns N' Roses until that album came out. So it was like that was the ultimate surprise. Here's this
yeah,
bunch of, angry motherfuckers from California and they're sleazy and nasty. And it's like they're hair metal, but they're not. They're not even because the singer's butt ugly.
yeah,
And it's like they're not fitting into the pretty boy image, but they're not totally sleaze metal. So it's like they're just kick ass. And that's another no filler. That's you
yeah,
can't pick a bad song on that album.
yeah,
And it's like, did they impress me the rest of their career? No, but that was a phenomenal debut album.
yeah.
And so you never know.
Well,
It all boils down to preference. It really does. There's probably
I think you nailed it though, Mikey. The
yeah,
fucking industry has changed, so
yeah,
there came a point where it was moot. There was here's an artist. They can only release a couple songs at the time because they do a lot of it themselves. They don't have the backing anymore. So I mean, it's the
Yeah.
fucking. I can blame the industry for that
Well, you think
because
about a
things have
record company.
changed.
Yeah. What does a record company really do for people? Because they very rarely put out any CDs or vinyl came back a little bit, but I'd say 90% of the country streams everything and
Yeah,
they just download it digitally. So it's like the record company just has to go out and scout and find these people, maybe front them the album money and take a percentage of their streams and their sales on iTunes and shit like that. So it's not as big a deal to
yeah,
have a debut album. It's just like you just hear of a band. That's how it is anymore. You
yeah,
just hear of them. I heard my favorite band on XM radio, for God's sake. Just happened to hear one song. I thought, oh, that's cool. I'll go home and check it out on YouTube, another social media.
yeah,
And that's how I became associated with Ginger at all. And it's like, I didn't know they had 4 albums out before that one.
yeah,
It's like crazy. But
yeah,
I think debut albums. I'm just going to go ahead and go on my limb and say it's definitely Boston, Weezer, Down, and those are my top three probably. As
okay,
far as changing my course of my musical history, life, those three are the big ones that were instrumental for me. I'm sure yours is like a Van Halen one. I knew that was had to be one. Probably, Motley Crue and
Too Fast for Love,
uh,
uh,
yeah,
uh, The Poison. Look what the cat
Poison's
dragged
damn good.
in.
Yeah,
That had a pretty big impact. I would probably say
Out of the
the
Cellar,
Pearl
I have to
Jam.
throw in there.
You threw out the
Yeah,
Pearl Jam. The Pearl Jam
Pearl
album was
Jam's.
actually that kind of opened my eyes to that genre. So, I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. Uh, I had to backtrack on Metallica. I had to backtrack on Megadeth,
Yeah,
all the heavier stuff because I completely missed it. But, the Kill 'Em All was a goddamn
yeah.
kick-ass
You
album.
better have some energy drinks around. Keep up with that shit.
Yeah.
Back then it was like, oh my god, what are these
Uh,
guys doing?
the Wasp, the first Wasp album, that got overlooked, but it really set the tone for what they were trying to do then, and then it's just Blackie just got better and better as he went. So
Yeah, I mean,
that was probably a big debut for me. So it's going to be the 80s and 90s based more than today.
yeah, mine. I mean, mine would have been Queensryche would have been in there for me for Warning, but they had an EP before that, so that's like I don't know. I had heard them already,
Yeah.
so it wasn't like a debut for me. But however, people out there, you know what we're saying. You get our gist, and everybody's listening palette is authentically different, which is great. So yeah, comment down there and tell what your favorite debut albums are. If we missed any that we shouldn't have missed, I'm sure we did, but
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's just always be on the lookout for new music because you never know. You never know. It's gonna give them a shot. Give
And
everybody a shot.
and make sure that you go back and do your research because what you think is a debut album might not be a debut album.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, you
100%.
never know because you'll be like, oh, that no, there was actually this EP or this, or
And
you
and
thought
yeah.
Cowboys from Hell was their fucking debut album. It's like, uh,
I actually did
no,
forever. I did
no,
for a long time. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
They had their little '80s when they were still glam. That was probably their
Glam phase.
debut
Yeah.
album, and you just
Yeah.
go, no, no.
I'm saying so.
So there
Yeah.
you go.
Exactly.
Are you ready to wrap it up, Mikey?
Yes, sir. I am.
All right. This is Skeet.
Russian Mikey.
See ya!
Peace out.